Hey, it's Grayson. This is another episode of the Fixer Punk podcast that is either a month too late or 4 months too late. In any event, it's a way overdue as an episode. Welcome if you came here from my appearance on Street Fight Radio, which was actually on last week's episode of Street Fight Radio. And I wanted to kind of continue the discussion that I had on the air on Street Fight Radio on this episode, which when I was on the show, I was discussing how progressives could learn from the example of the new AEW World Champion, Adam Page. And I've had, there's plenty of content up on that concept and discussing why Adam Page is such a game-changing athlete activist influencer who really has a lot of potential from his example, taking his example and using it in our own practice of advocacy and in our efforts to help create better levels of social justice and to push for social change. If you go to fixerpunk.com, there's plenty of information on there. I have 3 articles. One of them's on the prowrestlingmusings.com website. I have some TikTok videos on Adam Page. But today I want to focus on the idea of never underestimating a slow burn storyline. One of the key lessons of Adam Page is that this wasn't something that was overnight. And this is something that I've noticed specifically going into progressive activism from a background in conservative activism. It's an issue all across the board, left, right, nonpartisan. But a lot of people fail to appreciate the true strength and depth, and especially people who aren't as well trained and sophisticated in looking at trends and seeing things that are very small and minute, not as immediately apparent. People don't appreciate a slow burn storyline as much as they should. Just like in wrestling, in politics and social change, a slow burn storyline can be incredibly impactful. So, if you're not terribly familiar with Adam Page, I would recommend you go to the fixerpunk.com website and look at the articles I have, especially the article that I published back in July. Can a millennial cowboy wrestler help save American political discourse? That covers sort of the entire story of Adam Page. But suffice to say that he's known as the anxious millennial cowboy. And he's had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of struggles with betrayal, mental health issues, alcohol overuse. He's been trying to get to this point, which he has reached. He is now as of full gear, which was in November, he is now the AEW World Champion, which is an accomplishment that he's been going for ever since 2019. And there's been this long story of him trying to redeem himself, trying to win, and not being able to come back and finally get the win. And through that time, he's been very open and transparent about his understanding of the world, his progressive ideas, even being a cowboy. He has a very progressive slant to that entire concept. He'll speak positively about Black Lives Matter, speak about wanting to impact climate change. His new car as AEW World Champion was not a new pickup truck as you'd expect from a cowboy, but he got rid of his old pickup truck and got a Tesla, which he put cattle horns on as a funny little touch because he wants to help combat climate change. So a lot of his narrative has been around how he wants to how he wants to help positively change the world, and it's remarkable for many reasons. Number one, the fact that you have this extremely strong, very tough cowboy who is going out there and saying things that amongst the average American conceptualization of a cowboy would get somebody labeled as being weak, soft, soy boy, all those words. He's going out and saying that, saying these things and supporting progressive candidates. It's been reported that he supported Bernie Sanders in the 2020 primary elections. And also just even outside politics, just acknowledging his mental health struggles through this whole journey. But it's not typical. It's not typical in how long it took for him to get over this, because people were thinking that over and over and over again, he would fail and stumble and fall in trying to challenge for this championship. But ultimately, he had to find the right group of people to be with, leave his prior team, so to speak, within AEW behind, and go with a new group of people, and then ultimately to prevail against Kenny Omega and winning the championship. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment then, but over all that time, it looked like nothing was going to happen. It looked like this is never going to work. And the time frame, analysts were complaining about, this is taking way too long. This story is taking way too long to materialize. It's been 1.5 years or more. And he still hasn't gotten the championship. He's still going for it and still going along the same story of trying to redeem himself. And we want to think, in the political field, we love to think that, okay, we have this single event. We have an event, we have an election, we have a rally, we have this whole, the whole concept of that October 15th general strike that was going all over social media, but really didn't have any actual traction behind it, wasn't well organized. People were thinking, oh yes, this is going to be the one big event where we're going to change the momentum around workers' rights and get these demands met. And you have to count on this one event, this one protest day, this one boycott day, this one general strike day. Even on the electoral side, oh yes, we elect this one candidate to office, everything's going to change. But that isn't really the case. That doesn't always have to be the case. And when it falls apart, that doesn't mean that something is completely irreparable. A lot of what I learned from Adam Page was to stick along your journey and stick with your goals, and to have the confidence in knowing that what you have is actually good enough to be able to get you to win and to continue on your journey. And with some of these events failing, people may get discouraged, but a lot of people, thankfully there are just as many wise people that are saying that like, oh yeah, if this thing doesn't work, then it doesn't matter as much. But there's sort of a balance to it as well, especially when it comes to electoral stuff, because elections have to get won. But if the election doesn't go your way, that's a completely different story. But in terms of like different events and then needing sort of a state of perfection, needing everything to be perfect before you can advance, is definitely a foible. And you had this sort of imperfect guy with all of his flaws advancing to win. And I think that's kind of a good way for us to think about it. We need to continue to advance our agenda and be authentic about what we want to have change in society. But be strong about it, do what's necessary, but to actually continue blazing on ahead, as Adam Page would say. And we're starting to see right now, just as we saw the materialization of a slow burn storyline in his championship, we're starting to see materialization of a slow burn storyline amongst workers in terms of in terms of the changes in the labor market. There may not have been a single day, a single event, a single protest, a single political event really that caused some of these changes we're seeing in the labor market. But we're starting to see the labor market get more and more favorable to workers through minor things that a lot of activists and organizers are like, no, people just randomly quitting their jobs and this whole great resignation, that's not going to be the catalyst for it. We have to have these big events. We have to have these general strikes. We have to have these specific things. We have to do everything in this perfect, neat way. No, we don't. You can let things go the way they go to an extent and let things happen authentically on their own. I'm a big fan of spontaneous order. If you've been listening to this podcast for any period of time, you know that I'm a big fan of using spontaneous order and letting people organize amongst themselves to create change. And you have, through the COVID pandemic now, and through this whole nobody wants to work anymore type rhetoric, all of that, you have that being emblematic of people essentially choosing, no, I am not going to partake in this workplace system. I'm going to leave this old way behind and leave this exploitation and these people telling me that I'm not worth what I'm worth, this non-confidence, this attitude that has been given to me by sucky employers of that I'm not capable of winning. I'm not capable of earning more money. I'm going to leave that in the past. And you see people doing that, one person onto the next, onto the next, onto the next, onto the next, onto the next. People who don't even know each other's names probably, that are all having a chain reaction and saying, this is what's important to me. And this is how I am going to try to better my situation. And then that balloons into collective action. And that's a perfect example and emblematic of the stuff I talk about here. People can do what is right to develop themselves and become better, become stronger. And we can have an empowering narrative, not a disempowering. Everybody has to act at the same time. You're helpless to fix this without this collective system, this structure, this complicated system created by theory. No. You can do this cowboy style. You can do this independently, riding solo, while merging into the collective, because that isn't something that we want to dismiss completely. Just as in the Adam Page storyline, where the Dark Order, his new team, was helping him and guiding him along, there needs to be a collective structure, but it doesn't have to be perfectly aligned with some theory. And this is something that it's taking time. It certainly is taking time. We didn't magically wake up one morning and we had a complete revolution of union workers' rights, minimum wages being raised across the board, some single piece of legislation that's doing it. But you have all these people who are deciding, no, I have more confidence in myself than what you are giving me as an employer. So I'm going to walk out. I'm going to leave this job. I don't need you in my life anymore. I don't need your lack of validation. And of course, there's privilege to it, and economic systems and support are very, very important. I do have to say that probably a good reason why people are able to do this is because people were saving up money during the pandemic, not just because of the stimulus checks, but because of reduced spending, because you're stuck at home. So people are bettering their own financial state. I know that in my case, I have started to really improve my financial status and my primary goal in terms of money management. And I'll tell you my story about how I got turned down by a financial advisor. But my own goal in my own money management is basically to never have to be in a situation where I have to take a job that I hate ever again. I'm in a situation right now where I have to take jobs, of course, but that's the goal here. That's what's going to feel to me like a championship, like a title belt. And that is a feeling that a lot of people are having now. People are saying, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to, like right now, I'm going to have to take a part-time job, but thankfully it's going to be one that's hopefully better than the ones that have invalidated me and not paid me what I needed to have and not been with good people. But I'm also a real estate agent now. I've talked about that a little bit. I'm now a realtor. I've had a transaction, but obviously that's not consistent. of an income. It's kind of something where it comes and goes at times, but I want to get to that place where I can be able to say no to a system that doesn't care about me, and be able to say yes to whatever it is that is going to propel me into the future. And yes, of course, we are seeing this manifest into this attitude manifest into traditional labor action as well. There's no contradiction. There is no contradiction between workers trying to do stuff on their own and workers trying to do it as part of an organizing structure. Having both collectivist and individualistic attitudes running at the same time and cooperating with each other is magic. That is how you actually accomplish change, because not everybody can do everything on their own, and not everybody wants to completely and entirely cede their identity to a group structure, and people don't want to feel powerless. People don't want to feel like I have no power here. And that is something that we're seeing in this slow burn storyline here, is people individually getting power and then people collectively getting power. You're starting to see it self-organizing in things like the whole anti-work subreddit, which I was actually probably way before a bit before the pandemic, before all the hype around it over the past few months. Years ago, I was posting on that subreddit with my frustrations about workplaces and workplace systems and control and bad bosses and stuff like that. And I found it very unique. I was like, this is something where lots of people have these attitudes. Lots of people dislike their jobs, but people are now to steal another line from Adam Page. People are growing the balls to do something about it and realizing that there's strength in numbers. And we don't have to see it all happen at once. We're going to see a bunch of incremental changes. People on the left get a little too irritated about the idea of incrementalism. They're like, incrementalism is failure. You must have revolution. You must have this. You must do all this really, really strong stuff really quickly. It has to be perfect. No, that is not how change happens in many cases, especially in a modern system, especially when you have the mechanisms of democracy, the mechanisms of freedom to help you along, and especially when you can build a supportive community that's around you for the long term. And building a truly supportive community, not just a community that's like forces you out there. Yeah, you got to have that thing forcing you out there to try to make change, ask for union rights, to form new structures, but also one that's supportive of your needs. And the fact that we have people right now that are able to support themselves a little bit better financially based on savings, like I said, is a big game changer, because now you don't have just a few dollars in your bank account. You can walk out of the workplace and say, I can be good for a few months. I can be good for this much time, and that's a matter of personal empowerment. Then you want to get to a point of collective empowerment where you're able to have structures of mutual aid, where you have somebody has to leave a bad workplace, a group of people have to leave a bad workplace, try to organize some sort of strike or union action, have a place where people can give to each other and contribute to each other's needs and give money, give things to people that are trying to fight back against oppressive labor structures, and also just have general hardships that come with the current time. And it's going to happen underneath people's nose. This is going to happen. We're starting to see publicity around anti-work, which I never in a million years, back in like 2019 when I started looking at this stuff, after I had my really, really bad job experience, thought that anti-work would become something that you'd see talked about in like Wall Street Journal, mainstream, nightly news type settings, but it is. And it just slowly built up over time as people grew and gained that confidence in themselves and their ability to create change. And it grew into something that couldn't have been imagined before, something that was shoved off in the past. Like, you guys are never going to get what you want. Your $15 minimum wage, that's a joke. That's never going to happen. But no, people kept blazing on ahead with that confidence to say, no, this is what we need. And we're seeing above and beyond $15 minimum wages. We're seeing companies having to raise wages beyond that and actually treat people better, which the wage is just part of it. It's also the way people are treated. There are things that I would probably do for free if people treated me well, but you have a lot of situations where workers are not treated well. You have a kind of oppressive structure of customer relations, even of customers, the customer's always right type mindset, which I believe in consumer advocacy. On the Fixer Punk podcast, we believe in standing up for yourself, whether you're the consumer or you're the worker. But we don't believe in pettiness and being mean about it. And that needs to change as well, that attitude amongst the public. And the way workers are treated, giving them time off, giving more flexibility, giving benefits. So it's not just the wage, and we're starting to see that these possibilities, things that we're being laughed at, are happening. And I'm proud. I'm proud of where things are going, and it's going to materialize. At some point, we are going to have that moment of waking up one day and thinking, this is way better. The structures of employment, the systems of government are better because we incrementally built things up to this way. We started to help each other, come around each other, make each other feel materially and mentally comfortable in making tough decisions to do better and to care about ourselves, to care about those around us, and to let go of these attitudes of the past, of having to be tied to bad jobs and having to emotionally yoke yourself to these old institutions. So just keep going. Keep going. If you're trying to put yourself in a better situation financially, to be able to have more freedom and independence in your job, then do that. But then also think about the collective. Think about how bad working conditions are affecting others around you. Consider organizing if it's something that's suitable for your situation. If you want to start being the change in terms of your own businesses, if you think that you can start a business and run one, if you get the risk and understand the perils in that, then do it. If you feel like you can ask for more from your current employer, then go ahead and do that. Have the confidence to continue on with that. If you feel like in the housing market, which that's another totally other topic, but it is sort of the same thing. People are really upset with landlords. And if you feel like you've put yourself in a really, really good financial situation and you don't want to be under the thumb of an oppressive landlord, and you're financially ready to make that leap into being a homeowner, then call me. I'm now a realtor. So I even if you're not in Southern California where I'm located, I can refer you to somebody in your part of the country. So if you happen to have gotten yourself financially stable enough to consider that, and it's not necessarily even with the caveat that, of course, in many parts of the country, including where I'm at right now in Orange County, California, it's a crazy seller's market, but interest rates are still relatively low. If you happen to be one of those people that said, "Oh, I don't have to live in this big city where I have a very high rent. I can now work remotely," and that's the other thing is, I think that whole cowboy metaphor, and I spoke about this in my piece in ProWrestlingMusings.com about Adam Page and his version of the cowboy lifestyle, you're seeing a lot of people, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, moving into smaller towns and kind of embracing sort of a simpler life while working remotely, because their jobs now allow them to work remotely. And then there are some other things of organizing remote workers, keeping the wages high enough, not having these massive decreases in wages because you decided to move out of the high cost of living area. But if you happen to be one of those people, congratulations. You've built yourself up financially. You can move to somewhere that may be less costly. You have the money to be able to do that. Then get a hold of me. You can actually call my office line, which is 657-206-0736, 657-206-0736. You can send an email to Grayson, Greyson, at GraysonPeltier, Peltier.com. And if you're ready to make that move, then I'd love to help you out with that and get you connected with somebody in your area that can help you with your next step of buying a home, or even if you want to rent a different home and you want to move out of your current living situation into another rental. It's a good thing to have somebody by your side in the form of a real estate agent in that situation as well. Many times landlords take advantage of people because they don't know the rules, they don't know the laws, they don't know the customs of the industry, so they think they can just trample all over you. And that's why I personally believe that it's a good thing, even rental transactions, to have representation, and oftentimes it won't cost you more money. So 657-206-0736. My name's Grayson Peltier. I do have to read off my Department of Real Estate license number, 02101592, in case this is construed as advertising. But I really, really think that we're going to start to see gradual change that'll one day add up to the people sitting in a championship title for the kind of change that we want to see in our communities. I think I'm going to do my personal updates, which I have plenty of them, since I haven't recorded since like July. I think I'm going to do those in a separate episode, which may come out at the same time as this one, may come out a little later this week, on Wednesday the 15th. Adam Page is going to be facing up against Bryan Danielson, a.k.a. Daniel Bryan, for the AEW World Championship. Danielson is challenging Page for the championship. I certainly hope that Adam Page retains, because he is a big-time inspiration to myself and to many other people out there. Is truly a unique figure, and the depth of the character that he's built and his authenticity for young people trying to make changes in their own lives while making changes in society is truly unmatched by any athlete activist I have seen in many, many years. And I spent a lot of time following different sports and following athlete activists in them. So best of luck to Adam Page this Wednesday. Please make sure to subscribe to the Fixer Punk podcast. Follow me on TikTok at Fixer Punk. On TikTok, I am updating TikTok very regularly with additional advice, information, insights, tips, ways to help improve your life and to help make change in our communities. That's about it. You can also follow me on Twitter at Grayson Nation, GreysonNation, and I will see you again, hopefully way sooner than like 5-6 months, for the next episode. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.